Bonjour, habari za leo. My name is Kevin Mutia.
Solofina Nekesa.
Lauren Arnza.
Ryan Fisher, Professional Officer at ICLE Africa. On behalf of ICLE Africa, the African Center for Cities, our future cities, and partners, I'm excited to welcome all of you to the Rise Africa 2021 Action Festival.
Rise Africa has been growing as a platform of thinkers, doers, enablers, committed to inspiring action for sustainable cities.
Rise Africa is about building active networks across academia, government, private sector, civil society, and the arts.
Our entry point is based not on articulating problems followed by proposing solutions, but rather on celebrating our cities as places of innovation and culture, while asking what more we can do to make them sustainable, inclusive, and vibrant.
This festival is hosting 46 sessions over 5 days from across 16 countries in Africa and the world. Every session aims to share new ideas, showcase ongoing actions, and launch new initiatives by bringing participants together to chart a new route forward.
We hope that the festival program will inspire you to commit to one or more specific actions that you or your organizations will take on. As this session closes, you will be redirected to a survey in which you can articulate these actions. We will follow up on these committed actions throughout the year and offer resources, connections, and support. In this way, we are testing the idea that events can galvanize action, and we hope that you will join us in this effort.
Beyond this session, there are many ways to take part in the festival.
Register for further sessions.
Vote for your favorites in the photo competition.
Test your knowledge of African cities from our daily quiz.
Watch a variety of inspiring video provocations.
And listen and dance to the Rise Africa 2021 playlist.
We hope that you will make all attempts to reach out to new people and build lasting connections.
Before we begin, it's important to note that this session is being recorded and that by participating, you are consenting to be recorded. All recordings will be available on the program page after the festival.
Creative expression is vital for creating new futures for our cities. So we invite you to enter this session in the spirit of creativity and dreaming.
When inspired fires fly. We are moving into the city again this morning. Our dreams tucked under our arms and the bags under our eyes overflowing with hope. We are moving this city again out of mourning, cleaning our streams of consciousness with floodlight ideas to illuminate the workings of our inner scope. We've masked our intentions anew. We've strengthened our bones, calcified our resilience, and merged stillness with our minds using breath as the sinew. We continue to forge a dreamscape across an arid land held hostage by reality. We are watering smiles into the cracks in the concrete. Reinventing laughter to sprout and fill the lulls in our conversations. Yes, our windows open towards brick walls, but our eyes are the source of sunlight. We are living temples of light, moving across the cityscapes, mobile street lamps, the reflection of the heavens we rose from.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our session on Food, Water, Energy Nexus, launching the training program under the IFWEN project. I am Puriya Salehi, the Senior Research and Innovation Officer with ICLE World Secretariat, and I'll be one of the moderators of today's session. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited that we are launching this Food, Water, Energy Nexus training program with all of you. And we hope that this is going to lead to the execution of a very interesting and helpful and insightful training program for city decision makers, city officials, practitioners, policymakers, researchers, and so on and so forth. So before actually starting the session, I would like to quickly provide an overview of what you can expect in this session. We will start with a quick presentation about the IFWEN project. Our project lead, Jose Pupim from FWEN Foundation University in Brazil, will provide a quick presentation about the project to provide the context and the background for you. Then we will deep dive into the training structure, and my colleague Yakudu from our Africa Secretariat, who's one of the key people behind designing this training program, will walk you through the structure of the training program. Then afterwards, we will share the Mural board, which is similar to Mural board with you. And then we will have breakout sessions and rooms in which we would like to have an interactive conversation and discussion with all of you to capture your thoughts, ideas, and reflections about the program, about the themes and topics, and about the guiding questions of this training program. After the breakout sessions, we will have 1 minute per each breakout room and breakout group to basically report back to the main plenary what was discussed in this session. And then we will open the Mural board for your contribution. So the idea is you will hear and exchange ideas with your peers and other experts, and then you will provide your inputs into the Mural board on different angles, including what you think about the structure, if the questions and the guiding questions are the right ones to guide city officials and decision makers through planning for food, water, energy nexus in the cities, but also a crowdsourcing exercise through which you would like to compile all the resources, platforms, and tools that you are aware of. At the end of the session, we will share with you a Google Form link through which you can express your interest to participate in the upcoming 8-week sessions and training that is happening in July and August. So today is a formal launch of this interesting training program, but we will fine-tune the structure of the training program based on the feedback that we collect today. And then we will, after adjusting that, we will execute the actual 8 sessions later in July and August. The logistical information will be shared with those who are interested in this program through the email and contact information you will provide through the Google form at the end of the session. So without any further ado, I would like to invite our project lead, Professor Jose Pupin, to kindly present the IFWEN project and provide background information and context. Jose, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Puria. Good morning, afternoon, evening, colleagues from around the world. My name is, as Puria said, Jose Pupin de Oliveira. I am the leader of this initiative, but you have many partners around the world that are working with us to make it possible. Despite the COVID, you have been doing a lot of activities in the last 2 years. And I'm going to present a little bit what is the project, what we have done so far, and some of the results. And then we have a background that we can use in the next activities of the session. So for those of you who are not familiar with the terms we're going to use in the next activities. Now, this is an initiative, as you can see, with 7 partners around the world, and each partner has its own responsibility. And this is an initiative of the SUGI, Sustainable Urbanization Initiative, that's part of Belmont Forum in JPI Urban Europe. And the project basically is what we call transdisciplinary research. That first is multidisciplinary, people from different disciplines, social, natural science. And second, also is very international. You have partners from all continents, basically. And third, also is a kind of research that should lead to academic results, but also to interact with people that are going to use the research in practice. And this is why our partners here are very diverse in terms of location and also knowledge, they bring to the project. As you know, why the topic food, water, energy, this, as you know, is going to have a huge increase in the demand of these three resources, and most of these demand will come from cities where the consumption is growing, and you expect for energy increase 80% and water around 50 and food 60% in the next 30 years. And how we're going to deal with that is a big question mark. Have in mind also you have global challenges like biodiversity loss and climate change that make it even worse. In the case of cities, as you know, most of the cities, they bring those resources from outside. They don't produce the three components. Very few cities actually are self-sufficient in these three. They bring from outside. And then there are a lot of stress, and then there are also a lot of vulnerability. In many cities, they don't actually control the flow of this resource. Any major disruption due to, political or economic problems or climate change, natural problems can make really life difficult in cities because this resource will be short of supply. Probably some of you have experienced some problems with cut energy or water in your cities due to different problems. So with our project, you try to understand how cities innovate and learn in food, water, energy nexus. And the nexus is exactly the connection of these two. You think if you connect the systems that most of times are separated, you have a water system, energy system, food system. We think if you connect this, make the nexus more, improve this nexus, you could make those systems more resilient and less vulnerable. No? And the idea is also to use green-blue infrastructure. Our idea is to how improve nexus using this infrastructure that could be of many types, not only green areas and green forests, but also include urban agriculture, wetlands, green roofs. And you see, you have done a lot of research on this. What has been written so far has been researched so far. And you see a very positive connection, with improving nexus and also the amount of what's called this green-blue infrastructure. And you're doing the research, you did a broad survey using eClave's membership of thousands of cities, but also you're doing specific research in 8 cities around the world. I would say 9 because Taipei is also partner officially of the project. But you have these 9 cities where you do more in-depth analysis and getting their innovations. You map in their innovations, how these innovations happen. And basically the innovation, you have a very broad concept. It's not rocket science, not high tech. You look in different kinds of innovation in the local government, in social innovation, that include also use technology and so on, and looking how this innovation happen, particularly the capabilities that cities acquire and how they acquire, what are what we call the learning mechanisms for acquiring those capabilities. You look at basically 4 different types divided into groups. One, internal learning mechanisms in the city government, but also external from interactive actors external to the city government within or outside the city. But also you're looking at opportunities to have also 2 ways and 1-way learning. You look at you differentiate between 1-way learning that could be just hiring a person, for example, hire a consultant, and 2-way learning that is interactive with other cities. For example, what are you doing now here? That could be a source of. I mean, you have these 4 kinds of learning mechanisms. You look at this, just give you some results. What you found out, a lot of the innovations you map in this big survey are more, in the end, you classify 120 cities that are part of what's called Global South, developing countries in Latin America, Africa, and in Asia. And what you look at, that they are very dependent on what we call external and 2-way kind of learning mechanisms to develop those innovations. And then you see different kinds of mechanisms from those that I just showed you. You know, basically, this external two-way is very important for those kinds of innovations to take place. And also, you see a lot of dependence of external source for policy learning. Particularly, you use not only foreign institutions, but you see a lot of non-governmental organizations, social society groups that are important to drive those innovations. It is how actually the city's government interact with society, interact with external actors that actually drive a lot of this innovation. And finally, my last slide, you know, still ongoing research. You develop this framework and how the institution gained this capability was the key learning mechanism, but you develop also a set of guidelines that where you know could disseminate the knowledge from our work and doing many other activities like this training program. But also you have this post-COVID city challenge led by a group of us, particularly native of the cities that try to bring the best alternatives that is seen around the world for the post-COVID city. Anyway, this is just a short introduction. If you have more information, I'll be glad to discuss with you. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll give the word back to our host, Ikle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose, for providing very insightful presentation about what IFWEN is about partners, about the key activities under this project and the initial outcomes and the way forward. So now after providing this background and context about the IFWEN project, we would like to walk you through the IFWEN training program. And this program has been designed and co-developed by ICLEI and other partners of the consortium. And now we would like to basically walk you through the main topic, the objectives, and then also what you can expect that experts will discuss during these 8 weeks of training. So for that reason, I would like to ask my colleague Jakudu kindly share the screen for the presentation so that
no problem.
Thank you.
Just give me a second to start sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen.
You are yet to see.
Oh, sorry, I need to share. Yes.
Fantastic. So, as you see, this is a training package. This training package was basically developed based on the outputs and the results of the research projects under IFWEN. And of course, as Jose mentioned, we are having 8 different cities under this project. We are in touch with the city officials and work with them. And this consortium is actually composed of a range of different type of partners, from academia to non-governmental organizations, city networks, and so on. So we try to pull in and capitalize and basically leverage on the existing expertise from different backgrounds here. So this training, the overview is about that this course, this training course is going to take place over the course of 8 weeks, 1 session per each week, fixed days we yet to finalize, and it's going to be 2-hour session. Each week opens with a brief reminder of what Nexus is about, what Food, Water, Energy Nexus is about, and then we will unpack the question of the day, on which we will ask your feedback later through this session. And then we are aiming to invite 2 tiers of different cities. The first is tier 1 cities, that is basically the IFWEN project cities, 8 cities that Jose already mentioned, and then tier 2 cities are those cities under ICLEI network or other cities that are interested in participation into this training. So next slide, please. So basically, when it comes to this training, the key question would be, oh, what is the objective of this training? So the core objective of training, this training is geared towards increasing local governments' confidence and competence to deliver integrated approach in their jurisdiction when it comes to planning for food, water, energy, and also waste, as a sectors that are usually under different departments in a city. So specific objectives of this training includes, but not limited to, increasing understanding of food, water, energy nexus in relation to green and blue infrastructure systems. And also sharing key challenges that cities face when it comes to planning nexus and taking a nexus approach in a city, including breaking silos, and then also identification of nexus initiatives or opportunities in the cities that are using a nexus tool. Also, we would like to take the opportunity of this training and present a policy guide, a toolkit that is one of the key deliverables of this project that helps cities understand where they are with regard to a nexus approach, what is the current situation in their jurisdictions, the challenges, the strengths, the opportunities, the threats, and then through that, basically they could conceptualize vision, plan, and do nexus in their jurisdictions. So this is an opportunity that through which we would like to share this tool with the audience and also get feedback from the participants through the exercise we have designed for this training. So in the next slide, we are basically providing you a quick overview on the topics of the days. So as you can see, the first week is going to be a general introduction, Nexus, what Nexus is about, what food, water, energy Nexus in particular is about, followed by the second week where we are going to frame Nexus and nature and the connection between Nexus and nature. Then the week 3 is going to be about bridging food and water and energy, followed by the week 4 that is about how to innovate for integrated outcomes. The week 5 will focus on solutions, particularly Nexus approaches, and showcasing the existing initiatives in the project cities, and discuss a little bit the successful cases, but also the failures or the challenges that cities have faced. And then the week 6, we will focus on the solutions, particularly on the community innovation. The week 7 is going to be about financing Nexus. As we all know that financing sustainability project, including Nexus, is always a barrier, particularly for global South cities. And that's where we would like to basically give a little bit of focus to the financing aspect, top-down financing, but also bottom-up crowdfunding and different potential approaches for the finance. And then the last week will be basically a wrap-up of the conversation, discussion, strategic linkage between all the conversations we've discussed over the course of past 7 weeks. And then finally, create an understanding how to do and how to implement Nexus approach within the cities. So I would like to ask my colleague Jakudu to walk us through these days one by one and explain what we will be deep diving into during those days. The floor is yours, Jakudu. Thank you.
Thank you, Poria. As Poria has mentioned, I will now take everyone through the training structure day by day. So in the first week, this is going to focus on an introduction, and the key questions that we're going to be asking for this session include: why should we be improving innovative governance for food, water, and energy nexus, an explanation and scene setting for the training, and most importantly, making sure that our participants understand what nexus is. So asking, what is nexus? During this session, we will be having a discussion that covers the following points, which are collectively setting the scene and desired outcomes for the overall workshop and training, and defining the challenges and the context that most cities find themselves in. We will also go into a discussion around the context and the resource imperatives, as well as a discussion on the key concepts, such as planetary urbanism and systems thinking. The learning objectives and guiding questions for this session will include: how do the challenges manifest in your jurisdiction, and what is the key system thinking, and what does it mean for the food, energy, and water nexus context? In the second week, which will be titled Framing Nexus to Bridge Food, Energy, and Water, we will be asking what really is nexus, how do we connect nexus and nature. We will be discussing setting the scene and framing nexus to bridge food, water, and energy. And our learning objectives here will be: how do we manage the trade-offs and co-benefits between food security, energy, water, and waste, and what are the linkages between food and green and blue infrastructure. In the third week, we'll be discussing the framing of nexus to bridge food, water, and energy. So the three key questions we'll be asking in this week are: what does food systems, discourse, or practice have to offer nexus? And we'll ask the same question for water, discourse, and practice, as well as what does the energy discourse and practice have to offer nexus. In the discussion for this week, we'll be setting the scene to frame nexus to bridge food, water, and energy. We'll also include discussions around water sensitive cities, as well as energy efficiency measures to address food, water, and energy nexus. The learning objectives for this section will include how we ensure quality energy and water supply for all citizens, how we can improve food systems support, how can improving food systems support efficiency in other nexus areas, as well as how it can improve water systems and supporting efficiency in other nexus areas, and lastly, how it can improve energy support systems for efficiency in other nexus areas. In the fourth week, we will be discussing how to innovate for integrated outcomes. The key question for this week will be: what are the capabilities or enabling factors that will help you, meaning the participants, to innovate? We will be learning from private sector innovation for use in cities. The discussion for this week will include a discussion and workshopping around how you innovate based on IFWEN, and then we'll also have a recap of the first of a recap of all the weeks from week 1 up until the third week. But most importantly, going back to that question about what is nexus. And then the session will also cover innovative systems, building innovative capabilities in cities, and policy enablers. The learning objectives for this session will be: what are the types of innovation we are seeing in Nexus? It will be about building political buy-in for innovative governance initiatives, as well as asking why integrated solution, as well as discussing why integrated solutions for innovative systems are needed. And then we will also be discussing why do cities need coffee breaks. And this essentially refers to why cities need to be able to reflect on their experiences in order to better chart ways forward and initiatives to address challenges. In the fifth week, we will be looking at solutions, which will be about nexus approaches that showcase what our 9 cities have achieved. So in this session, we will be asking how are subnational governments leading or supporting innovations in nexus and or green and blue infrastructure. So our discussion will include solutions from the training package, which Poria had discussed just earlier in the presentation, and looking into government innovation, successes and failures. And then 4 cities will then share experiences for a 2-hour discussion, each presenting for 10 minutes, followed by a discussion between the cities and the audience. The learning objectives for this session will be what are the factors that have supported Nexus innovation, and what are the types of Nexus projects or initiatives that we are seeing led by government. In the 6th week, we will again be looking at solutions, but focusing on community innovation showcase. And here we will be asking, why do we need to support community buy-in in our cities? And the discussion will then be around what is happening on the ground and how it is shaping Nexus outcomes. So the learning outcomes will be how cities are engaging with the private sector and civil society organizations to maximize innovation, as well as asking what types of Nexus projects or initiatives we are seeing led by communities or private entities. In the 7th week, we will look at solutions again. We will be focusing on financing Nexus. And here we will be asking how we can innovate, how can innovative finance solutions support food, water, and energy Nexus implementation. And we will then be discussing what the financing enablers are. And here we just have a reference as to what it's a key reference that we'll be using, but essentially 3 points will emerge from here, which are financing public sector Nexus approaches, crowdsourcing solutions, as well as how to finance private sector solutions based on business models and small grants. And so in the last week, which will be titled Implementing IFWEN, we will be asking, has this training offered you the tools to tackle IFWEN challenges and develop solutions to implement food, water, and energy Nexus in your cities? We'll be asking attendees whether they feel equipped to do IFWEN, and then we will also lastly be asking them what policy enablers they think could support greater uptake of food, water, and energy Nexus, as well as green and blue infrastructure approaches. So the focus here is a synthesis of the 7 weeks and mainly the key learnings from there, as well as creating a space for guided discussion. And then lastly, drawing the links and identifying gaps.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yakudu, for your very vivid presentation and provision of very detailed account of what we are going to expect from each day of the training in July and August. Really helpful. So now it is the time to basically have breakout rooms in which all the participants could interactively discuss and share their thoughts and ideas on particularly 2 matters. The first is the theme and topics of each 8 days and each 8 weeks of the training. And second, as Yakudu mentioned, there will be a question or a number of questions that guide the conversation and discussion between city participants, city representatives, academics, practitioners, and policymakers throughout the training. So we would like to get your idea and get your reflection and feedback, whether or not these themes and topics are actually the ones that is needed and are the priority topics for the training, or you think, oh, there are other themes and topics that you're missing here and you would like to suggest. But also, we would like you to reflect whether or not the existing questions are the appropriate and right questions to guide the conversations. So for that reason, my colleague Yakudu will quickly provide an explanation about the 2 major activities on the Mural board. Just one quick thing, that what we are going to present here and see through the link that my colleague Yakudu is sharing in the chat section, this is a locked Mural board. So it's just only for viewing purpose. And then you will see the activity. Yakudu will share their screen and show and discuss the activities, but we are not supposed to think about the input. Your input and technical guidance for providing input on the Mural board will be provided later after the breakout sessions. Just this Mural board is for you to see what are the topics and then base your conversation in the breakout sessions on that. So I would like to ask Jakudu to kindly maybe share the Mural board, share their screen on the Mural board, and explain the first two activities that we would like the group to discuss in different breakout rooms. Over to you, Jakudu.
Thanks, Poria. So as Poria has mentioned, right now you cannot edit the board, but you are able to move around as well as navigate the board. And we will go through a breakdown of how to use the board just after this session. So right now, what we're going to be doing in our breakout rooms is discussing the first two activities. So just to go over them, maybe just to start, that the Mural board is meant for us to, it's essentially a canvas where we are able to collaboratively input and generate ideas with regards to a specific topic. And in our case, it will be about doing IFWEN and mainly launching the training program. So as you can see in the first activity, I hope everyone can see my screen, but I will try to zoom in a little bit more. In the first activity, which is titled Strengthening IFWEN Training, we will be asking everyone the following 3 questions. We will be asking you whether the following questions are adequate or appropriate to train city practitioners and decision makers about IFWEN, and what additions or changes you would make to each day's questions, as well as asking you to share general thoughts about the questions of each day of the 8-week training course. So as you can see, the board includes a table here of all the days running horizontally from day 1 up until day 8. And then under each of them are the key questions that I just presented on for each day of the week. So what we will be asking you to do is reflect on these questions with insights of whether you again respond to these 3 questions, whether you think these are adequate or not, and what changes you would make to each of the questions. We have also included an overall comment section here where you can then add any comments that you feel might not necessarily respond to one of the specific days, or which you feel might respond to multiple days and is an overarching comment. When it comes to the second day's activities, the second activity, we will then ask you to reflect on what you think is missing from the IFWEN training themes. So in this case, we'll be asking you to reflect on whether there is any theme or topic that you would like to swap with the existing topics. So these include topics from day 1 up until day 8. And if possible, to add a course description for that theme that you think should replace the other, as well as which day you would switch it out for and what your reasons would be for doing so. I will now hand over to Poria for us to go into the breakout rooms to have discussions around each of these activities.
Thank you so much, Jakudu, for explaining what are these 2 activities about and what we are going to discuss in each of the breakout sessions. My colleague Catherine will kindly create 3 breakout rooms and will assign the audience to the breakout rooms. We will have 20 minutes for discussion where we expect everyone will actually share their ideas. And after 20 minutes, we will be back to the main plenary and each group will present 1 minute about the key outcomes of the breakout sessions. So as a matter of seconds, you will be assigned to different breakout rooms. Jumping in. Now, everyone is back to the main plenary. And thank you so much for the information you shared also in the breakout rooms. Very interesting to hear your perspective and view. So maybe now that everyone is in the breakout room, I would like to ask the moderators of each breakout rooms to, I don't know if they themselves want to report back the key takeaways from the conversation they had in the breakout discussions, or they have assigned someone else, but kindly report back what you have already discussed. Maybe we can start with the breakout room number 1.
Yeah, I think it's our room. Thank you, Puria. Just kind of in the middle of the discussions, and then you came back. I didn't manage well the time, but you had a broad discussions about the 8 weeks and the topics appropriate time, and you also got feedback about the people in the room about the experience with the Nexus, and the people you heard that for them the Nexus is something new that they have heard, but they didn't have much idea of it, and they like that things is important. And the second point that they raised is about the structure. They thought it would be more explicit on the connection with sustainable development goals. And also because it's like long, medium term strategy in many cities that are working with SDGs. And the second part is the more very short term, is the COVID-19. Many cities now are struggling and working with COVID-19. And for them, it's very important if you could link to those two discussions. And finally also got to discussions about the support that the city officials, how they could get more support to advance this agenda in the cities, to increase tree canopy or urban agriculture and so on. But these are what you discussion you had. So time didn't go exactly in the questions, but you like the broad structure of the discussions. And they thought that maybe this could be in the week 1. You could have a broad discussion about these two broad top SDGs and COVID.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jose. I guess like this is a very legit point that linked this, particularly at this momentous time that we are, and we saw how governance in different levels, but also the communities were not really prepared for sudden shocks, and that impacted the urban systems, including food, water, and energy nexus. And I'm aware that in some countries nowadays we have power cut more frequently because of the COVID, and I guess that's a very very interesting observation. And we will definitely make sure to find a way to address the points that that your group discussed and shared with us. Thank you so much. So now we move to the group 2, and I would like to ask the rapporteur to share the key takeaways of the conversation you had in the group 2 with us. I was there, and I think it was a very helpful and interesting conversation. So the floor is yours. Is that Melissa? Or
okay. Hello.
Melissa, Laura, who's going to report from your group?
Hi, Puria. I will report, but I thought we were group 3. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I meant we merged the group to 2 groups, actually. So there was no actually group 2. So I meant group 3. My bad. Thank you.
No problem. Yep, thank you. So an overview from our group. We pulled up the mural board that you shared and looked at the overall overview of sort of questions and the frame of the training packages. And we focused with the little time that we had on sort of looking at the questions that the training package would be asking. And we had just enough time to sort of look at the first question. So between all of us, we looked at this first question that you'd be interrogating on day 1 on these training packages, which was, why should we be innovating on FWEN governance? And we looked at this question from our own perspectives in relation to the cities that we found ourselves. So in our group, we had Karen from Cape Town, we had Laura from Sao Paulo, we had myself from Montreal, we had Funke from Nigeria, and Wan Yu from Taipei City. So we had 2 contributions. We had just enough time for 2 contributions from Karen in Cape Town and Funke in Nigeria. And looking at food, water, energy, and sort of the challenges that affect governance and how effectively those governments in those particular regions have been dealing with those issues. So Karen from Cape Town mentioned that a lot of initiatives sort of focus around community gardens and agricultural training to try to improve food and water connections. Cape Town obviously suffers from water shortages and has had challenges with droughts in the recent past. This also happens as a collaboration usually between multiple organizations, so not just the cities, but a lot of the times it's not-for-profits that participate and get involved and lead some of these initiatives, but also the citizens are quite helpful in sort of the collaboration in taking up the call to reduce consumption and bring in initiatives like rainwater barrels and this sort of thing. So governance in Cape Town is pretty much a collaborative initiative between a lot of different actors that participate in this. It is difficult, though, in terms of governance in general, with political corruption that can sometimes be involved with this, not necessarily with the city, but just the power dynamics that go into having to deal with these three very big resources in the city. So that was some of the challenges that came down from Cape Town. Overall, though, from that perspective, it was really this need to look at silos and making systems approaches. So this is something that I think when you are looking at the training packages from the experience of Cape Town, we could consider sort of what is the context within each different city while you're considering the kinds of questions that you're asking them in the training package. From Nigeria, the challenges were also slightly different. This is a city that's in the north central region of Nigeria, so issues with resource management are a challenge. There's often a lack of a water supply that's coming from the government, so sometimes people are needed to sort of collect this on their own. Light and electricity is also rationed, so you have about 4 hours a day or 4 hours a night, but this is also not consistent. So the supply of electricity is also a challenge to govern. And then issues with food, the land is not very fertile in some areas and more fertile in others. So this makes it a challenge for where farmers farm and which crops are farmed. And there's also often shortages of food as a relation to that. So what the government tries to do is manage sort of negotiations and collaborations between these different actors to try to, as best they can, allocate and ration what resources there are in that city. So in both cities, the commonality was that there are challenges in rationing and the resources themselves, just getting them in the first place. But then the second one being the dynamics between all those actors that either depend on them or are involved in the governing process. So that's a little bit of a summary from us. And those are some things that you can keep in mind when engaging the cities in the training package.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa, for a very detailed and insightful report that you provided. Really appreciate that. And it's obvious that the conversation we had in the room number 3 was as fruitful as the discussion and conversation we had in the room number 1. So I see John has unmuted himself. John, do you want to add anything? So, yeah, apparently that was just a mistake. So now we would like to dive into the most interesting part of today's session, which is engaging and contribution to the mural board that we have put together to map and compile your insights and comments. So now my colleague Jakudu will share her screen, provide a little bit of technical guide on the mural board. The mural board is more or less the same as Miro board. It's just like 2 different platforms, but mural board is a little bit apparently more user friendly. And yeah, so my colleague Jakudu will provide a little bit of the technical guidance, and then we will dive into 3 separate activities where you can basically share your thoughts on the themes and topics, on the questions of the day, but also on the resources that you are aware of. So without any further ado, and just being conscious of time, I pass the floor to Jakudu to take over. Thank you, Jakudu.
Thank you so much, Poya. So just a quick crash course on Mural. As Poya has mentioned, it's a different platform from Mural, but they essentially do the same thing, which is they allow people to work collaboratively in one space. How you use Mural, if any of you has your mouse handy, I think that would be the best way to navigate the board, because it's easier to use your mouse than it is to use your trackpad. But if you only have your trackpad, don't worry, you should still be able to navigate the board quite easily. So essentially, just to get started, what we're going to do in terms of collaborating on the board is that we're going to be mainly adding sticky notes, which are these yellow pieces here, which I'm moving around. I'm just moving around one small one over there. And essentially what you're able to do in these is type in them. So the first thing is how you add a sticky note. So when adding a sticky note, it's very simple. You just have to double tap on your screen, whether you're using a mouse or you're using the touchpad. You just have to double tap on the screen and a card will appear, which you can then move around by just tapping on it and holding. So just as I've done, you tap and hold and it's able to move. And if you're not able to do that, another option is to just hover over the board and you will see a set of tools on top. So you can go to this first one here, which essentially means move, and you'll be able to move your sticky note to where you think you need to place it. And then when it comes to navigating around the board, if you want to move around the board, what you can do is click on the move hand here, which is just the symbol of a hand, and you should be able to tap on your screen and hold, and then move the board to where you would like to navigate to. And once you're done with moving and you're where you want to be, you can turn off the move mode. And then if you want to zoom on your screen, it's very simple. How you zoom onto Mural is the same way that you zoom onto anything on your screen. A shortcut for that is pressing Control or Command if you're using a Mac and just saying Control minus and it should zoom you out, or Control plus and it should zoom you in. So now that we know how to move around the board, I think what I want to do is just have a quick question or maybe a show of hands. And I'm hoping Poria and Kat, you can help me with this. If anyone would need like a few moments to actually try out doing something on the board through an activity, or if we understand how to use Mural.
So thank you so much, Jagudu, for providing this technical guide. Just being conscious of mine and knowing that we have only 13 minutes. I guess the best is just like learning by doing, and I'm sure like most of the colleagues here have experience working with Miro or Mural. Otherwise, we can help them if they have any questions. So so maybe just you can kindly start the activity number 1, knowing that we will allocate 4 minutes per each activity for the input of the audience.
Okay, thank you, Poria. I agree. If anyone has any questions, please just shout or put it in the chat and we'll be able to help you. But what we're going to do now is jump into the first activity on the board. So what you're going to do is remembering the questions that I had mentioned in a previous section where we had introduced the Mural board to you. There were 3 questions which you were discussing in your breakout rooms. So if you could go to each of the days and based on your discussions as well as your general thoughts about the training, if you could respond to some of these questions, to these 3 questions, as to whether you think the questions are adequate or appropriate to city practitioners and decision makers about IFWEN, and then what additions or changes you would make to the questions and what your general thoughts are. So if you could grab a sticky note, just put yourself into a note, and maybe just to note that when someone is working on a sticky note, you'll be able to see that it's already been occupied because there will be it will look a different color. So don't worry about writing over something that someone else has written on. So we will give you 4 minutes right now to jump onto the board and start making edits. Please let me know if you are now able to make edits onto the board and if you're able to click into a sticky note and start typing. I will also just quickly stop sharing my screen just so I'm able to, or maybe I'm able to do it now. I just want to add to the chat. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen so that I'm able to share the link again, just in case you're not able to find it and you can then jump onto the board.
So my question to the group is that could everyone actually join? Because I see some of the colleagues are just joining the Mural board. I can see only a handful of colleagues there.
Maybe just to add on to what Poria is saying, if you do have challenges accessing the board, please let us know. But also just to note that you can also put down ideas that you had while in your breakout room. So reflect on them and then add your perspective onto it. Maybe something was mentioned in the breakout room that did not make it into the summary that you still think is important that you can then add on. Also, just to note that if you've just been thinking and processing, we do have a minute left. So if you could start putting down your ideas onto the board.
And one quick question to those who are already putting their notes is fantastic. But did any of you needed to actually register, or you just joined as a guest? Laura, Melissa, did you create an account or just joined as a guest?
So just asked for email address, Pura.
I just joined as a guest, but I'm having trouble putting my notes in the sticky note.
So let me just help you quickly with that. So if you can come back to the screen just so you see what I'm doing, and if you can follow my mouse. So I'm just going to zoom in quickly, and what you do is you pick the day you want to go to, you click onto the sticky note and then double tap in it, and then you should see a cursor come up, and then you can start typing. I hope that helps.
Funny enough, on my screen, there is no cursor like showing up. It's just like when I select a sticky note, I can just like type in it.
Yes, that's how it's supposed to be. The cursor is just an indication to help you if you feel like you need to see the cursor. But once you are clicked on a sticky note, you should be able to start typing.
Okay, I think it might have worked. So how do I restick it?
Could you please repeat?
I think I was able to put the text. Does it show up there?
Let me just quickly check which day are you typing on?
Day 1.
On day 1. Let me just quickly go to day 1 and try and see. So did you put in
it's the one with a lot of,
sorry?
It's the sticky note with a lot of text there.
Oh, I see your text. Yes, so it is visible.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
No problem.
Hi, Jakudo. I'm trying to use it on the iPhone, and I cannot, it's, for me, it's a challenge. I mean, I could not open the sticky note, and it's really small. I can't see anything. So I'm afraid that this is going to be a challenge for a lot of people who do not have access to computers or have a bad connection. Because I was hoping that, using my phone would be okay, my cell phone, and it's really not.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to use your desktop because you can navigate using your mouse. But if you feel like that will take you too long to learn, I do have an alternative approach for you. You can quickly just put down your comments in the chat and just say day 1, and then type in your comment, and we'll copy it onto the board.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would be the suggestions, right?
Yes. So your responses to the question, to the 3 questions that we had up on the board, which were, are the following questions adequate or appropriate to train city practitioners and decision makers about IFWEN? What additions or changes would you make to each day's question? And what are your general thoughts about the questions for each day of the week?
Oh dear, that's a lot.
You can respond to any one of them. It's mainly about sharing what your key reflections are, because you did have these discussions during during the breakout room. So what did you find most important to share with the group, which we can then focus on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will also stop sharing my screen just so I'm able to monitor the chat and copy in any comments that you guys may have that I should copy onto the Mural board on your behalf.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yakudu, for this offer. So those colleagues who are not able to comment on the Mural board, maybe you can just kindly again share your comments in the chat box, and then Yakudu will kindly add your comments to the Mural board. Because Funky and Abiodun, you have issues, so maybe you can share your comments and feedbacks in the chat section. And then just because we are having some issues with regard to Mural board, maybe we just give it 2 more minutes for this activity, and then we will move to the next activity.
No problem. We are almost at the end of our 2 minutes, so just to check whether anyone does have any final comments. If you do, please just add them to the chat and I will copy them. And then for everyone else who has been able to input onto activity 1, I would like for us to shift and remember how to move around the board to navigate towards activity 2. I will then give us again another 4 minutes, and we will add a little bit of time if needed. But if you could now go on to activity 2, which is about missing IFWEN training themes, to maybe suggest if there's any theme or topic that you would like to swap with the existing topics, and to maybe explain why you would like to swap out that activity for something else, as well as what your reasons would be. And if you're introducing a completely new topic, perhaps to just give a short description about it. And obviously we as the team will take it into consideration and develop it further. You don't necessarily have to give a full rundown of what an additional theme could look like. And similarly, for those who are not able to navigate the board, remember you can put your comments into the chat and we will copy them onto the board.
Kudo, how can I get to the activity 2?
So I'm just going to share my screen again. So when you're on the board, when you're at activity 1, at the side of your screen at the bottom, there's this hand over here. Can you find the move mode? Once you find that hand, you just have to click on it, and then you will just tap on your screen and drag. So double tap on your screen, hold and grab, and it should allow you to move the board. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Laura, can I please ask you a quick question? You've put in the chat solid waste and wastewater. Could I ask which one you would like to add this to? So this would be day 2. I'm assuming, sorry, day 3.
Yeah, I had thought you had asked what other topic we should add to what we already have. So I think that solid waste and wastewater are really important parts of the whole system, actually, not only food, but I think food is, if it has to be linked to one thing, it would be food, priority. But it's also an important part of water and sometimes of energy because of the use for water treatment.
No problem.
In energy also, when we think of the possibility of generating energy from waste, solid waste, or even wastewater, because that is something, biodigesters is not something new. And actually, they're in use in a lot of countries, even in Germany, I think. They draw a lot of energy from waste. So I think that is something we should be thinking about, using biodigesters as part of the nexus at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm really, really concerned about the way we're going to operate this. And oh yeah, something else, translation. Because first of all, I think that for you to have people using the mural, we should provide a session to train the participants in using it. Make sure that everybody can use it. And the other thing is we have French, but there should be Portuguese as well. I think we should include Portuguese translation.
Thank you. Also, just to note that we're using Mural mainly for this workshopping session and had not yet considered whether we would introduce it to the actual training. We would definitely do a proper training if we needed to. And we'll see whether, I think also based on this session, we've also seen whether it's a good tool to use within the training itself.
Okay. Thank you.
But definitely French and Portuguese translation is something that we will have to discuss. If anyone has any final additions to make, again, you can always put them into the comments, but I would like to then shift us onto our final activity. So what I'm about to reveal at the bottom of activity 2 is activity 3. So now that we've gone through the process of discussing the actual training outline that we've developed and getting your insights into it, we would like to then just have one final activity that we would like to get inputs from. So I've just started sharing my screen just so you're able to see what activity 3 is. But essentially in this activity, we would like to consider decision-making tools to support IFWEN. So we want to find out from you whether there are any tools, materials, or platforms that would be helpful to cities and decision makers in planning food, water, and energy nexus activities. Given that some of us are having challenges with accessing Mural, I think what I would like to do is also just call on you to engage with me. So since you do have the link, please do not hesitate to just view the Mural board. I will stop sharing right now just so we're able to see hands and comments, and just for everyone to just jump in and let us know what sort of tools, materials or platforms you know of or would like to suggest that could help support the training, amplify the training, and yeah, be a resource. I've just seen a comment from Karen, which says, you don't know where this would go, but discussing partnerships with universities for new tech or redesign of old low tech for mainstream use. I just wanted to check, this is an additional item you would like to, an additional theme you would like to see engaged with? Or is this where you're saying we could consider checking for possible materials and tools to support the training?
Yeah, indeed, like this project has another 14 projects and the same initiative. Maybe you could, some of them are very in this line that Karen mentioned, is very like focus on technical innovations. And maybe you could, you know, talk to some of them to see how much they can share in some of the sessions. No?
I've just seen additional comments to it, which is perhaps this could also be a new topic. So I will definitely include it. Does anyone else know of any tools or platforms that they would like to share that can support decision making within the field of food, water, and energy nexus? Thank you, Abiodun. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Sorry if I didn't get it right, but I will definitely copy your comment into the chat. I mean, onto the Mural board. If there aren't any other comments or additions, what I'm going to do now is just remind you that the Mural board remains live, so we will not be locking it or taking it down. So if you have any comments that you would like to add, feel free to, after this session, still share onto the board any ideas that might come up. Maybe you think of something after the session, please do not hesitate to just find the link. Please save it maybe on your desktop or create a file just for the link, and don't hesitate to add any comments you may have. And then I'd just like to hand back to Poya.
Thank you so much, Jakuru, for taking the lead in this activity. And so I would like to also thank you all the participants for their contribution to the Mural board. As we saw here, there is a challenge with regard to mapping resources and materials that could actually be helpful for the cities. And I guess this is something that Karen just also mentioned in the chat section, which I really liked it. Just like mapping existing resources and to identify resources gaps. And I guess that's it could be potentially a new component of a new project or project proposal. And at the same time, I was participating in this conversation on Food, Water, Energy Nexus by Arena a couple of weeks ago. And I guess that conversation came up there as well. Then we were talking about, like there are literature and some policy briefs and policy guides here and there by different organizations and developed under different initiatives and projects. But probably when we look into what are the platforms or guides and resources that could actually help cities to understand the current situation of food, water, energy in their jurisdictions, to assess the status quo, and to vision for what they can do actually in that context. And then, of course, designing and implementing point projects. This is a challenge, right? And I guess one of the very important deliverables of the IFWEN project will be this policy guide, that it could actually help cities to understand where they stand when it comes to designing policies and approaches, and then how they can tackle and do food, water, energy nexus, in their jurisdiction. So yeah, as my colleague Jakuru mentioned, this Mural board is going to remain open for your contribution. If you come across any new material or resource that you could find it very helpful for the cities, please feel free to share in this Mural board. But before closing the session, I would like to ask all of you to fill out the Google form that we actually have prepared for you to express your interest to participate in the training. Please note that because today was a public holiday in some countries, including lots of European countries, we didn't have as much as participants that we were expecting. But then this Google form will be available on the website after the session, so that other colleagues, experts who are interested in this training could actually express their interest for participation. And then if we have enough spots, we will directly contact you and invite you to participate. So to close the session, I would like to yield the floor to Jose, our project lead, for his final wrap up and final remark before formally closing the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Puria and colleagues, for this interaction. I think it was very helpful to give feedback on different aspects of the planned training package. And I look forward to having some of you during those sessions. And you're going to give more information in the due time about when it's going to happen, who can join, how you can join. But basically, it's going to be open to any cities, not only a lot of cities from Africa, but cities from around the world. Thank you very much, and I'll give you the word back.
Thank you so much, Jose. As you rightly mentioned, it was Funky. Do you want to join? Do you want to add something?
No, just to say I appreciate the program. The webinar is so fantastic. So I appreciate you. Looking forward to the next program.
Thank you so much for your feedback. Please make sure to fill out the Google form that we just shared in the chat box. And on behalf of ICLEI family, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your participation today. And looking forward to meeting you in our training in July and August. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.